Such delicious, much terrifying. Wow. Night of the Living Apples is the latest arc of the main series comprising issues 32 and 33. A remnant of the battle between Celestia and Nightmare Moon crashes on one of the orchards in Sweet Apple Acres, and the magical energy surrounding it causes the apples to come to life and take over Ponyville, with the intention to conquer all of Equestria. And I can hear people clicking away already. Just like the last main series arc, I'm gonna flip the script and talk about the not so good first before I talk about the good. So, what's not so good? The biggest hurdle that this story has is getting readers to be on board with the idea in the first place. The plot is really out there, even by MLP standards. It's like they took that scene from Friends Forever 15 where every pony turned into fruit and made a whole story about it. You really have to suspend your disbelief in the fact that 1. An army of apples could subdue the ponies, including Princess Luna, this easily, and 2. That all of this started because of a meteor infused with the magic of Princess Celestia and Nightmare Moon, despite the fact that the battle was never in space to begin with. It's times like this where I'm glad that the comics are B-canon. Now, one can make the defense that the story is supposed to be similar to those of those B-movies like The Swarm and other such films, but instead of taking the usual tropes of the genre and using them in a unique or creative way, the story just gives you a B-movie with an MLP skin on it. And because of that, the enjoyment factor for this issue is heavily dependent on whether or not you like B-movies, and if you don't, then the comic loses a lot of its appeal. This isn't helped by the first part of the arc, which felt like a real drag, especially when the marketing towards this arc was geared towards hyping up the return of Flutterbat. Apparently, IDW took a page from the Equestria Games School of Advertising. Tony Fleek's artwork seemed to be lackluster as well. It's hard to believe that he did the artwork for these issues when he's done so much better work in earlier issues. So, after all that, is there anything good to say about this arc? Surprisingly, yes. One thing that Part 2 manages to do well is pick up the pace. The reasoning for how Twilight was able to turn herself and the rest of the main 6 into bat ponies was pretty solid, and it was interesting to see Fluttershy fighting against the primal instincts of her bat pony self. Although it would have been nice to get a visual representation of the struggle instead of having her talk to herself for one page. The Bat Pony versions of the main 6 were also well designed, despite some of the names being a little corny. One thing that was both good and bad about this arc was the moral given at the end. The gist of it is that everyone has a bad side to them. No one is completely good or completely evil, and morality isn't as black and white as one would think. However, in the context of this particular story, that moral is contradicted by the fact that we just dealt with 2 characters literally named Good Apple and Bad Apple, which represented the 2 sides of the black and white duality belief that the moral was against. And plus the CMC tried to make the moral about cutie marks because that's relevant. In the end, Night of the Living Apples saved itself from being terrible and ended up being mediocre. But while I would take a mediocre story over a terrible one, that isn't really much of an accomplishment. Now let's wait for everyone to lose their heads over a G3 pony having a cameo in this story. Oh, and the mare that Flim and Flam were thirsty for in issue number 9 of Friends Forever. Well, at least this story has its cameo game on point. Next month will begin the final arc of 2015, Siege of the Crystal Empire. Will it be the arc that saves the main series and leads into 2016 on a good note? We'll just have to see. And it's gonna be a 4-parter, so that means that I gotta wait till December to review this? Damn it! So what did you think of Night of the Living Apples? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Tumblr, and consider supporting me on Patreon or commissioning me for art via PayPal. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.